How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another Marvel Snap video. So Cull Obsidian is coming to Marvel Snap today. We're gonna go over the card, and I have 6 decks for you guys to try on day 1. I'm actually really excited for this card. So for those of you who haven't seen it, he is a 4/10 with the ability. You can only play this where you have a 1-cost card. Now, it's really important. You don't need a 1-cost card at the location the turn before. So like you don't need an already revealed 1-cost card to play him. You can play a 1-drop and Cull Obsidian on the same location on the same turn. So this actually opens up a lot of possibilities. The ability to use him with Black Swan. So you play Black Swan on turn 3. You can play like an Infinity Stone or something for 0 on turn 4 and Cull Obsidian on top of that same location. Let's talk about the decks that I think he's going to fit into. The first one I think is the most obvious. Thanos Lockjaw. In this specific list, if you don't have Black Swan, you can probably just play something like a Leech. But essentially what Cull Obsidian does in this is not only being a big body that Lockjaw can pull out for very cheap, he's also just a really good card to drop on 4. One of the interesting curves you can do here is you can play a Time Stone on turn 1, play Lockjaw on turn 2, you can play Black Swan on 3, and then on turn 4 you can play a Stone into the Lockjaw lane and play Cull Obsidian. Cull also serves as another 10 power body to make Scar even cheaper. So you play Cull, you pull out some other big bodies, and maybe you can play Scar for 0 on the last turn, along with something like a Magneto. I think he opens up a lot of doors with this deck. Not that this deck needed any more help, but kind of the most obvious fit, and the deck that I'm probably going to try right away on day 1. Next up, we have Thanos Zoo. This one is running Lockjaw. You don't have to run Lockjaw. You can run one of the other Zoo shells. I'm not 100% convinced he's going to work here, but I do want to try him out and see how it plays. The idea here is if you don't have a lot of your Zoo pieces, you can play Cull Obsidian and go big in one of the lanes, and then try to use Valkyrie to win another one of the other lanes. It might feel a little clunky. I'm not sure. You have to play test it, but it being a really good synergy with Thanos and the stones, it's at least worth trying here. Again, this one running Black Swan, so you can play Black Swan on 3 and then Cull and some stones on turn 4. Not super excited about it, but I do have to point it out in case some of you are wanting to try him in Zoo. Speaking of Zoo, we have a deck by Safety Blade. This one is a lot more interesting to me. You're running Hitmonkey, of course, Black Swan in this deck as well. And the goal here is to get Black Swan out on turn 5. So you can play a lot of your 1-drops, all of your 1-drops, on turn 6, play a Hitmonkey that'll get really big as well, and then maybe something else like a Shauna, or if you have Zabu out, you can play Cull Obsidian and Hitmonkey along with all the 1-drops. Kind of an all-in build, all-in Zoo build. Martyr, actually really good in this deck because you're going to be filling up most of the lanes. Obviously, this deck is really weak to something like a Killmonger, but if you're holding off to drop everything on turn 6, you probably aren't going to have priority and you're going to be revealing second. So might actually work out. I like including one of these like all-in lists in most of these day 1 deck videos. So really excited to try this. Probably more excited to try this Zoo list over the Thanos Zoo. Thanos Zoo, again, seems a little clunky. This one is exciting because we don't see lists like this that often. Deck number 4. Hi Evo. I think he slots in perfectly here. He opens up some doors on some like weird play orders. If you can get the magic out on 3 and then Obsidian out on 4, you can skip turn 5, play She-Hulk for 1 and the Scar on turn 6. You're floating mana through most of these turns, and then you can get a really big Hulk on turn 7. So I think it just slots in really well here. It opens up some weird play lines and lets you play things a little bit differently, where you have a 10 body to make Scar cheaper. So really interesting to see how this could play out. Is this version going to be better than the minus power versions that run Abomination? I don't know, but once again, worth trying. He synergizes very well with Scar. Deck number 5 is another one by Safety Blade, Small Ball Shuri. Essentially, you're doubling up on your Atuma here. You're having a second copy of it. If you don't have Martyr, you can consider playing Typhoid Mary. With Zabu, you're gonna be able to play some of these 4-drops for cheaper. Is Typhoid Mary going to be good enough? I'm not sure. Is 2 1-drops going to be good enough? I don't know. There's going to be a lot of play testing that needs to happen to determine if Cull Obsidian can be dropped frequently enough with just 2 1-drops in your deck. If it requires 3, that limits a lot of your deck construction, and who knows how playable he's going to be there. I think if it only requires 2 1-drops to be pretty consistent, I think he's going to be a pretty dominant card. Really excited for this Shuri deck. You may want to swap out Martyr for different 1-drops depending on how often she's losing you games. With this deck, you're not going to be filling up locations, so Martyr is going to be jumping around. And how good she is in this one, I'm not sure. And then the last deck, this is not a Cull Obsidian list, but this is a deck that I think is going to do really well, especially if you're climbing on day 1. If you're facing a lot of Cull Obsidian lists, you're facing a lot of Thanos Lockjaw stuff, you're facing a lot of high Evo stuff, big dudes, Zoo, where they're trying to play a lot of 1-drops. You have ways to deal with a lot of that stuff with Killmonger. In this version, you're running Ghosts, so you can reveal second. So you can play maybe double Shang-Chi with Shang-Chi Absorbing Man on the last turn. You can play Shang-Chi Absorbing Man Enchantress on the last turn if you have Zabu and Sarah out. So obviously a control reactive list here. I think Shang-Chi is going to be really effective, especially in the first few days when people are trying all of these big dude lists. So I try to get through all these decks really quickly. I'll put the links to the deck list in the description. I do one of these deck list videos for every card on release on day 1. So if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. And as usual, if you love all things Marvel Snap, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell. I'll see you in the next one.